What's up, you guys? Welcome to the TechCity Podcast. Bella Rose Okoje Duruji here. It is so good to be back on today's episode of the podcast. Now, today's episode is going to touch on a slightly controversial, very sensitive topic, especially when you look at where a lot of young people are with regards to migration and just the Jackpot movement. Basically, we have someone in the studio today who has a product that actually aids relocation and makes it much simpler. But beyond that, his product and service has scaled in some very interesting way, and we're going to talk about all of that today on the podcast. Please make welcome co-founder of Vesti, Shola Amusan. It's so good to have you on the podcast.
So good to be here. Thanks for having me.
How are you?
I am well.
Are you related to the athletes Toby Amusan?
My dad also messaged me the day and said, "Are we related?" I'm like, well, I should be asking you. So yeah, I got a lot of questions on that. Yeah,
it's a large family, I'm sure.
A large family,
yeah.
Yes, and we're proud to be associated.
Nice one.
But we're not actually related.
Awesome. So talk to me about founding Vesti. What was the idea behind creating that product? And where are you right now?
Well, today we can say Vesti. A couple of years ago, I say around 2 years ago, this was October 2020. You know, the whole incident that happened, everything, and
hashtag EndSARS.
Hashtag EndSARS. And before that, we had been, I created a course called Accessing Global Communities. I've been interested in helping people go global because, be part of fellowships, organizations abroad, but it wasn't about moving abroad.
Right.
So during that particular EndSARS protest, I felt like there were just so many people clamoring they wanted to learn more, and then I created this webinar, and that webinar blew up. 6,000-7,000 people joined. I was like, oh my God, this is interesting that people have this need, that people don't know what to do or how to move abroad, how to go to school abroad. And that was how it started, guiding people via Telegram. Then we thought, okay, maybe we could answer these questions, enabling it by using technology. And we created our first mobile app. So this mobile app was to answer the question of not necessarily teaching people how to migrate, but people within our migration group had difficulty making difficult migration payments.
Right.
So every now and then they will call somebody in the US and say, can you help me make this payment? Can you do this? Can you do that? And so we made our first app to pay WES, that's World Educational Services, for credential evaluation, and service fee, which is the Student Exchange Visitor Information System fee. So those were the two payments we were supporting at first, and then it expanded to nearly 100 payment types. Wow. And that was what started Vesti, helping to remove the barrier of difficult migration payments. But because, Jackpot is the thing, a lot of people got to know us as the platform that helps people. So we're writing a lot of blogs about how to move to Canada.
Right.
We're doing periodic webinars on how to move to the US, and considering what the socioeconomic situation in Nigeria is, despite the fact that migration is a human experience and humans are by nature nomadic. We're nomads by nature. People have been moving to the US since the 1950s. Nigerians finished up their quota for the express, visa lottery very quickly. So this is proof that Nigerians have always wanted to move.
Yeah.
And the socioeconomic situation of Nigeria today just makes it clearer that people are looking for something more. So that's the origin of Vesti. It was going to be just a Telegram group, evolved into an app that was helping people with payments. But today we have made it the all-in-one platform for immigration and finance.
That's brilliant. So how did you go about, that transition? So you're no longer just about payments. You are now actually enabling immigration. How did you go about? What was the skill that you required? I know your brother also is an expert in immigration, right? So talk to us about building that service and that product.
Absolutely. So for one, I was in Microsoft 5 years prior.
Yeah.
So, and the next thing I did was that I had a dev shop that was outsourcing technology talents to software companies in the US. So around me, I had that whole community that could build the platform for us. But again, evolving into someone that will now be doing financial services and then immigration.
Yeah.
We had to, learn a lot of things, and we're still learning. So towards my final year at Microsoft, when I was leaving Microsoft and then going on to focus on my company, Coven Works, I did some data and AI consulting for some of the top banks in Nigeria.
Right.
So it gave me access to understand like the evolution going on in retail banking and the areas of fintechs and banking that people were not paying attention to. So the time I spent helping companies like Sterling Bank and some other banks to sort of like evolve like their work around how they use AI in banking really gave me a lot of insight into what's going on in the financial services space. You know, and of course my first job was in banking, even though it wasn't in retail banking.
Right.
I worked for First Bank Research in a university. We're researching cybercrime and all of that. So
you have history.
Sort of like have some form of history. It's now that, you know, as Steve Jobs says, connecting the dot backwards.
Yes.
So it's now that I'm connecting the dot backwards. Now on the immigration side, this one is even a no-brainer. My brother, who is my co-founder, is an immigration attorney, and he studied law. He did his master's. He studied law in OAU, and then did his master's in the US, in New York. And of course, New York has a massive Nigerian immigrant population. So he was lucky that his first job upon getting to the US was actually in a law firm. And that law firm was basically focused on family law for African immigrants. So that was just perfect. So this guy has interfaced with thousands of immigrants. I mean, literally thousands. And is personally being involved in filing more than 500 green card applications. Wow. So as a result, like everything from adjustment of status, getting your work authorization is just like the body of knowledge for that. And of course, eventually we had to hire additional lawyers and all of that. So today, we are not just doing like immigration to the US, immigration to Canada, to Portugal, to other countries of the world, to the United Kingdom, and even now we have people who are education specialists on our team who are helping people who want to go to school. You know, but being able to like balance that. Is it migration or finance? In fact, I'm looking forward to a podcast that we discuss. Is it migration? Because this was something that our investors were always asking. Like, is it migration or finance? I'm like, why can't it be both? Because we are creating an all-inclusive platform, a one-stop location for you to deal with everything immigration and finance, because you can't remove it. Like people arrive in the US, they can't order Uber.
One can't work without the other. It's
even
so
before
intertwined.
leaving Nigeria, to even be global, you need access to financial platforms that understand the nuances of going from being local to being global. So it's an exciting place to play, and it's just been an interesting journey.
So I'm coming to a few more questions about Vesti.
Right? Okay,
yes, but before then, I'm curious about how it is working with your brother, because people sometimes complain about how difficult it is to either work with a family member, a spouse, etc. But this is a sibling dynamic. How does that work with you two?
Well, okay, so I have a friend who also runs a company with his brother.
Right.
So when I asked him sometimes, like 2 weeks ago in Philadelphia, I said, how do you deal with your brother? And that's how I'm going to answer this. It was like, we learned how to fight. So, but I never knew how to articulate it that way. But I think that's it for us as well. We sort of like, you have to fight. Like, you have to argue. So we have that going on. I'm the older brother. So I also have reminder. So I still get that. You know, sometimes I sort of forget that we're working. I'm still like, you're supposed to do this for me now. Yeah, so and those kind of things. But generally, he's a cool guy, cool-headed guy. But yeah, we've learned to fight. If you learn how to fight well, then there will be less issues, because you're going to do more of like, you know, just finding out what the issue is, solving it, trying to find out if there is pressure so that you can let that pressure go. But I'll say like it's still a journey for us. There's still many years of learning to work together. But yeah, and our parents have been very helpful too. Like that, they know that there will be, you know, so they try to help us get along. Even when they can't really tell what's going on, they just be like, CEO and CEO. They do all of that. I'm sure they're proud, you know, but yeah, so that is there. But also it's just a really great guy. Generally co-founder issues exist. So now co-founder that is also your sibling, co-founder issues exist. So one of the critical things is to know that those issues will happen and to be able to figure it out. And just learning to be selfless. Both of us are learning like to be really selfless. So when we're doing stuff, like he's the more selfless guy. So when I'm doing those things, like he goes like, what happened? Like what's going on? So yeah, but I'm learning that as well, just to be selfless, because that really helps. Everybody can use like a bit of kindness. Like just be kind. Don't be overly, you know. And I'm also quite the outspoken one, so I can be like a little. Then our spouses as well are very helpful. They go like, they can't do that. It's usually the opposite. So his spouse is behind me, my spouse is behind him. No matter what happens, like our spouses never support like their own spouse. They try to, and I think that's helped the balance. But overall, it's really nice building this company with him. Like I have days of my frustration, but I also have days that I literally call some of my friends and be like, if I do this company 10 times, I'll build it with this guy. Like because of that. Yeah. So we find strength, in each other's abilities. In my earlier days, one of the mistakes I made that hopefully anybody watching who is trying to find something with their sibling or even with any co-founder is that you have this thing where you'll be like, let's share this thing 50-50, the work. Like, let's share the work 50-50. There's really no such thing. Like, both of you need to bring 100% to the table to create a company that will be 200%. So, but if you're measuring, I've done this person has not done this, like, you're going to have issues. Half of the time, you really can't tell what somebody is doing or what they've gone through, especially because it's their company and they're also committed to it. Yeah. So that learning that is 100% that
is such beautiful advice. Sort of like, and I think that really applies to like everything, every relationship, to be honest.
Even marriage as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. So recently I read something from the British High Commission where they talked about how there are a lot of Nigerians who are looking to migrate to the UK and even other parts of the world. Canada is there, the US is there, there's all these countries. And the British High Commission was sort of trying to assure that much as there are lots of Nigerians looking to migrate to the UK, they would help in some way to not let this lead to a brain drain, right? Of course, I think brain drain was the term that was used a while ago. Now it is Jackpa. I'm not sure what it's going to be in the next couple of years, but when you hear those kinds of comments, how do you think it affects you and how does it affect people who may have legitimate reasons for wanting to migrate?
Absolutely. So this is a question that I get asked all the time, and people who are patriots who really believe like in, the dream, the Nigerian dream and all of that, always feel like, if you have any platform that is remotely just enabling people to move abroad, you are taking the finest of the talents away. But the angle I look at it is this, like, patriotism is in the heart, it's really in your heart. Whatever it is you want to do. Like, I've done more for Nigeria. I feel I've done more for Nigeria since I moved from Nigeria, for example. So there are things you have as dreams and aspirations to be able to do, how you want to build schools, how you want to furnish libraries, how you want to, transform the health sector. But if you are not enabled to do it, you don't even have the knowledge to do it, how would you be able to do it? So we're advocating for better enabling environment in the country, but it seems like it's taking time to get there. So the question we should ask ourselves is, should people, trade their vision and dreams and aspirations, for the country that is still trying to get itself right? The country will get itself right, but for someone who needs a master's degree in education or who needs a new skill in medicine and surgery, who would never get the chance to do that, should they not find the opportunity to go to all these other countries? The conversation we should be having really is, how can we make our country so attractive that regardless of where people go to study, they will want to come back? That's what has happened to China. China, yes, lost some people to like living in the West forever, but a very good chunk of the Chinese people, when they get that knowledge, China made sure that they created an environment that would make their people come back to continue to improve like their economy. So I think that's what we should focus on. What are the incentives for someone who finishes a master's degree to come back to Nigeria? Would you work on the labor force? Would you work on the companies? Would there be incentives from government to pay people more, to give them an environment that is secure, to provide them with, healthcare that is unparalleled? What are those things that we'll do? Until we answer those questions, we can't complain about brain drain. And quite frankly, we must not assume that the West has us all covered, because truly they are looking for the best minds. So even if they say they will enable, they will ensure there is no brain drain, it is still our responsibility. First, for the guy who has gone to get a great education abroad, to decide that he's going to use that knowledge, whether in person or remotely, to develop his own country. Whether he's going to put the time to it, say, I'm going to spend the next 10 years acquiring this economic power to be able to do more, or acquiring this education to be able to do more. Or if I become a neurosurgeon, I'm going to give 10 free surgeries, to XYZ teaching hospital every single year. I'm going to fly back to Africa and have this. So I'm going to sponsor XYZ amount of kids to do this. So I'm going to even contribute to a fund that's going to build this kind of healthcare. So that's really what we should be thinking about, and it's just really a very, very interesting topic to have. And for us, we're just committed. We have found out that we are not the ones who are drivers of migration. People are nomads by virtue of the fact that they are humans. Like, there's even a lot of saying that people in Ijebu came from XYZ, people in Oshun or Ile-Ife came from XYZ, Oduduwa migrated to Ile-Ife. So migration has always been our thing as humans. It's just, which company is really thinking about building the rails, the infrastructure that will make migration a human right, that will make people to be able to move wherever they want to, and that will make capital as mobile as humans are.
So I watched an interview that you granted a while ago, and you talked about wanting to democratize immigration. I remember very well. And I think to myself how certain products sort of already exist that make people take the topic of, or the decision of migrating into their own hands, right? So from like remote working, for instance, for some people, it's, stuff like the Global Talent Visa for the UK. What would you say are the other ways with which people who want to migrate can plug themselves into to make that possible, probably from maybe, I guess, an app perspective or, a tech-enabled product or service?
First thing, commercials. Go and download the Vesti app.
No, you're going to break down the Vesti process for us in a bit after this. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I mean, there are... The good thing is that we're in a time that it's no longer hush-hush. Governments around the world have announced their commitment to bring the best talents to their country. I'm wondering why Nigeria hasn't announced. Canada has said, 5 million people within the next 5 years.
Do you think it's because Nigeria has like a huge concentration of the best talents?
The best talents. Look at it that way. So we're like, we don't want more people?
We are so many, and the world wants us.
We're young, we are very talented, the energy is amazing.
We persevere.
We persevere. I mean, maybe too much even. So I think that could be, but we need to design a program that attracts the best minds to build, because every country has found out that talent is distributed all over the world. So if you have a space program now, there's nothing wrong in bringing a Russian, an American, a Chinese guy to work with a Nigerian to build our best, space infrastructure. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong in inviting the best Chinese minds to develop our, transportation system and give them and nationalize them. Nothing wrong. That's what all these other countries have done.
So sorry to cut in there. We've heard news reports about, government foreign policy, right, and governments collaborating. We've heard it with the Nigerian government and the Chinese government. And there are a lot of controversies around that. About if you do this with the Chinese, X, Y, or Z will be taken from you. So when you look at it from that perspective, how possible is it really to still sort of get talents from these people?
Yeah, while I am not a particular advocate of the Chinese, my whole idea around it is that generally, the country must be thinking about where to get the best minds from all over. So it's not just a question of national pride. Our people are the best. Like talent is truly distributed all over the world. So if person is Guyanese, if person is Ghanaian, if person is Kenyan, if person is, from Dominican Republic, wherever the person is from, if they have the ability to contribute to our economy, we should have a system that invites them. And truly we do. We still give citizenship to a bunch of people non-Nigerians. Yeah. So we do. We just don't have enough investment in that direction. So to talk about what we're actually trying to answer is about Canada, the UK, the US, all these guys at different times. They've set up specific programs also because their population is aging. So their population is aging and they want some of the youngest people who can contribute to their economy. So they bring those folks over, so that's part of it. Now, with those programs being designed, they end up on just the websites of the governments, and they're very cumbersome details. So there are some organizations that have gone ahead to break it down, into pieces. Basically, it's been informal. So organizations like VFS, for example, I've created something, but VFS platform is also very, very cumbersome. It's just like the website of the government themselves, but what they were trying to do is to simplify it, right? Also, there are Instagram influencers, social media, there's just so many of them who share information about specifics of how to move to Canada, how to move to this, so people can follow those. What we have seen with the product or the platform we're creating is that for the very first time, we're able to gamify and break down the whole process of migrating. So you can see the 16 steps you need to follow from the day you're leaving Nigeria to the day you land in Canada, for example. Same thing for the United States, same thing for the United Kingdom. So, and there are a couple of efforts around the world, they're calling it Welcome Tech now, that basically is helping to break that down. And there are a bunch of companies that are trying to be part of that whole human and capital mobility, and these platforms are there. But what people I think will be interested in as well is to know what kind of opportunities exist. You talked about the special talent visa for the UK. I want to let them know that the top 10 countries around the world that you will put in the category of first world countries, they all have a special talent visa. France has, Germany has, they all have this special talent visa. So don't just think it's only the UK. You can find out on their websites about what those special talent visas are. Portugal is also getting very attractive because of their tax system, their tax breaks, all of that, and the fact that you can get a residency that will give you access to the whole of the EU.
Wow.
And if you get access to the EU, you can then choose which country you want to
go.
leave.
Yeah.
So they're born. There's also, even Ghana has, I know the economy has been a little tricky in the last couple of months, but that was the country I was going to move to if I didn't get a chance to move to the US, because one part of my own main issues was that the erratic power supply and the internet access issues in Nigeria, I was just done with it, and of course some of the other security issues. So I was like, okay, if nothing happens, I'm just going to move to Accra, So Ghana is still there. Rwanda is also quite great, especially Kigali, for people who are in tech. You can get like a work permit within a week if you go there. So it's really inspiring. The real question is, if you want to come to Nigeria, can you get a work permit in 1 week? These are things that are ease of doing business,
it's supposed to be working on.
And I'm sure they've made considerable amount of progress, in terms of like quickness to register a business, quickness to register, open a bank account, and some of those things affected our ease of doing business index and numbers, but some of the key things about like how easy it is to get a visa on arrival, all those kind of things, they all matter. And the best countries, I want to tell you this for free, the best countries in the world over the next 50 years will be the countries that are the most welcoming to the best talents, who have a clear, concise way. So I tell people that people will not be called immigrants in the future. I don't think that word is really going to exist, because I believe in a future of abundance. So I believe that in the future, some of the countries who have been welcoming to some of the best minds or that provide an enabling environment, they will be the richest countries, they will be the wealthiest countries. And you can already see the indications. Our best doctors, sadly so, our best engineers, they are in Canada and the United States. There is something we can do about it. But there's something we also can do about the ones who are still in medical school now, to make sure that they don't even desire. By the time they look at what they earn here and what is earned there, they look at what security looks like, they compare it apples to apples, they see that there's really no need to move, all right? But in the nature of humans, you would realize that when you look at the list of things that actually make people to move, sometimes it's not even socioeconomic conditions. Sometimes it's just a quest for adventure. And that's what we are playing into as an organization. Because people ask me, what happens when Nigeria becomes a first world country? Which I also hope that it will be. What's going to happen to your organization? We are giving humans the power to move. Not necessarily Nigerians moving to the US. So like we want to help somebody from the US to be able to relocate permanently to Nigeria if it comes to that. We want to have someone from the United Kingdom to relocate permanently to Gambia if it gets to that. So in fact, I joke with people because I'm a very big enthusiast of space travel, that in the next couple of years, perhaps Vesti will be your pathway to moving to Mars.
Yay.
So yeah, that's how we see it. It's just really the power to move and building the infrastructure, the financial infrastructure for future humans. People now call it neo-humans. Neo-humans, just like you have neobanks. So neo-humans are folks that are like, they can have breakfast in Nigeria
and have lunch in Dubai.
They just, half of my friends, like I'm doing this in Nigeria now, and half of my friends that I thought I was going to see once I get here, they actually still live in Nigeria. I'm not talking about the ones that moved. Even those who live in Nigeria, so actually I'm on a flight to London. Oh, actually I'm on a flight to, I'm like, you people don't live in Nigeria, just receiving us. So these are neo-humans who desire to be somewhere else. And I hope that there will be a time in the future where people will move regardless of their socioeconomic status.
Yeah.
Like people will have the capacity. There will be funds that allow people to see other parts of the world, whether they are rich or not. Because when you think about 200 million people in Nigeria, like the people that can even afford to move abroad, there's not a lot of people. Yeah. So, but there will be a time where, by virtue of your education, by virtue of the school you've gone to, you would have gone for a field trip in China or in the US or in Canada, and it will just be the ability to, and a future of abundance where people will be able to actually see the world. I think their humanness deserves that they should actually see the world.
So something you said stood out for me, and it's welcome tech. And I think it stands out for me more because the number of people who have migrated and, there's that excitement. It's like, I want to move.
Oh, yeah.
And then sometimes when you hear back from them after perhaps a couple of months, a couple of years, they're talking about culture shock. They're talking about, listen, this is what I ordered versus what I got. This place is not as welcoming as people sometimes say it is. You know, people talk about the weather, you know, all of these things.
Yeah.
How do you think, how can Welcome Tech perhaps, you know, address issues of like racism that people face when they migrate, and this culture shock that also hits people when they move?
Absolutely. So I think more investment should go into Welcome Tech. We are a platform, obviously, that helps Welcome Tech. We're partnering with hundreds of welcome centers across the US to be able to help welcome people when they arrive. Like, essentially, how easy is it for you to understand the credit system, understand how to rent a house here, what does it mean to finance a car? These are things that people are not used to when they live in Nigeria. And same with the UK, same with Canada. The government has some things in place, but like every government, it's not as effective as it should be. You know, I also think that, again, you might think I'm taking it too far, but I also think that people should actually test what it means to be in -4 degrees before they actually go to Canada. Like, there should be like some Cairo center in Lagos that can be like, you're living tropical Africa, you're going to the temperate region, feel what -4 looks like before you go. Like, it's not like it would discourage people, it's just for them to know. And this is what it is. Some people have never seen ice this thick before. And they get kind of like, oh my God, this is not what I bargained for. So yeah, that should happen. But the Welcome Tech concept is just a series of technology solutions that will make people to be able to, number one, get access to a phone as soon as they arrive, get access to, you know, understand what it takes to rent a house. Like, part of the shock for us when we moved to the US was that you needed to have rental history. And you're all this one that people treat landlord anyhow in Nigeria. Like, nobody,
you can't do that. You have to have rented an apartment for
It's going to like show, and they will be able to check what you have done before, whether you used to miss your rent, all those kind of things. So that was a shock for us. Now, how do you solve it for people who have never lived in America? I'm just moving here. Why are you asking me for rental history? And you can't understand my rental history from Nigeria. So we found ways to be able to find landlords that are immigrant friendly. And this doesn't mean that their houses are worse, but they're just like, for example, if I'm a landlord now and somebody's moving from Nigeria and I ask him where he lived last in Nigeria and he told me where he lived and all of that, I'll be able to understand. So there are landlords that are immigrant friendly that we can basically, and when I say landlords, I'm not even talking about individuals, even apartment complexes, organizations that are okay with welcoming immigrants. So we're identifying those and we're displaying it as well. And also to be able to, for credit, for example, you know, how do you get a credit score when it's your first time, you're just in the country? You know, these were things that I was like, so we're solving for it now. Now you can import your credit score from Nigeria. And what obviously is that, do we have credit score in Nigeria? Actually, we do. For most of the banked population, we actually get assigned a certain credit score by default. And no, when you now start borrowing, it improves or declines. So
how about when you never borrow?
Yeah, if you never borrowed, like, so my brother, both of us decided to import our credit score. Mine was worse, by the way.
Really?
But I don't know why. But he has
never businesses
borrowed.
Now,
he has never borrowed.
Yeah.
So, and his score still came out. He still got his score. So if he was borrowing, it will either decline or increase. I financed a Mac when I was in Microsoft. So that report was there. So my score was a little lower, you know, but it's to show you that whether you have been financing before or not, but there's some that it doesn't even come out for at all. So we recognize that. And we still think it's a journey. So the CIC is one of the credit bureaus in Nigeria. There are a couple of other credit bureaus that are reporting, that banks report to them, lenders report to them. So it's actually not a bad thing to borrow, especially now that you know that you're moving abroad. If you're going to be moving abroad, the system in the US and the UK and Canada is actually mainly built on debt. And because it's built on debt, you have to begin to think about, you know, how do you have a great score and all of that. You can say, oh, I will have all my money to buy anything I want, but you would see that some of the things you aspire to get are not actually things you can pay cash for. And there's even some places where they say, we prefer that you finance. There's always like incentives for financing, for borrowing, because that's what their system is built on. So these are some of the things. So Welcome Tech around all of that. Also, we're trying to partner with AT&T and T-Mobile to make sure that people can get like access to eSIMs before they even arrive to the country. Because I know folks who go to the UK and were like, where do I get a phone? Who do I talk to? So these are some of the things we're trying to do as well. So I believe, because this is a novel field, Welcome Tech, you know, same way there's fintech and all of that, there should be more entrants coming over the next couple of years. We're definitely ahead. We're setting the pace, you know, but more people should come in the interest of mankind, you know.
So Vesti has gone from being something that wanted to help people just figure out their finance, right, and payments for international transactions, to helping migrants get information, get guidance when it comes to moving. And of course, now you're also doing Welcome Tech.
Yes.
How would you say the company has scaled so far? Where is it right now? What new products do you have? And just break that down for us.
Yeah, I mean, we started as just two people, who were just trying to figure out how to help people. People will call us and say, I want to make payment for West. We'll use our personal cards to becoming a company that, now has a virtual card system integrated into our app, so you can create your own card and make your own payments.
From anywhere in the world?
From anywhere in the world.
Right.
And now you can we grew from that team of just 2 to like 25 now, and from 2 users, 3 users, 4 users to about 100,000 users now.
Wow.
I think when we did that, I think it was December last year. We did
Coven Works, right? It was Coven Works we talked about.
Yeah, we also talked about, no, we didn't talk. We talked about Coven Works.
That's Coven Works.
But we did there was something in TechCity News.
Yes,
about when you $1 million in transactions, right?
Yes, We'll link that.
And that time, I think we were maybe less than 10,000 users. So now, the past 11 months, we're nearly 100K users. In the coming year, we actually have very big plans. We're very super ambitious about where we want to go. We want to have like 500,000 to 1 million users using our platform. And we're expanding to Ghana, we're expanding to Zambia. We now had in 2 more destination countries, that's the UK and Canada, that we're going to be active in. So it's the traction has been real. Now we have partnership with Stripe, we have partnerships with Nova Credit in the US. We have a couple of new partnerships that we're announcing. Our NDIC insured banking partner in Nigeria, Providence Bank, and in the US, are really, really there to make sure that we are primed to tackle this very huge market opportunity. So we're super excited about it.
I'm curious about how regulation may, sort of hamper some of your products, right? Especially when you talk about this virtual dollar card that you have, right? That's one thing that just makes a lot of Nigerians feel so helpless, where it's like, you feel like you figured something out, especially in payments for international transactions, and then the policy comes up, CBN says, we can't continue, that way. So, do you think that there could be anything that could come up that could affect this product that you have? Yeah,
what we have done is we create very good relationship with the regulators, so we can understand why they are doing what they are doing, what they are thinking about, and what is likely to happen next. As a result, it prepares us to be able to get our customers covered. Also, we create layers of resilience to make sure that no matter what happens, there is always a backup plan, because the environment is truly volatile. However, one of the things I realized is sometimes from the standpoint of the regulators, if you sit where they sit, they're also just trying to figure things out and make sure that, things are better for the majority. So they don't want a group of people who are just profiting off of a problem without considering the rest. So part of what we have done is to make sure that we have good alignment with the regulators. We are positioning for all the licenses that we require. And where necessary, we are partnering with very licensed bodies that are regulated by the same central bank, to make sure that we do the right things, put all the disclosures where they're supposed to be, and all of those things like that. But yeah, I think one of the best things you can just do as an organization that is serving consumers is to try to be several steps ahead so that you can provide your customers what they need at every time. But what you can be sure of is that, I want to use Starboy Day for you, Vesti Day for you.
Wow. What are the biggest and most life-changing lessons you have learned along the way with building Vesti?
Yeah, life-changing. One of it is, I think I learned it from my previous venture as well, is you won't figure it all out from the beginning. It's I think it was Abraham Lincoln that said that, if you are going through a flight of stairs, even if you can't see everything, just what matters is the next stair, in front of you. So that's what I've seen play out as we are building Vesti. We are evolving and we're not scared to make mistakes and evolve. We are evolving, we're getting better, and that's really guiding us. The other thing is that if you want to be truly global, you have to take big risks and be really, really committed to what you are building. And I think the final one I'll talk about is the fact that you can't be the smartest person in your organization if you want to build a really great company. So I'm surrounded by some of the best minds that are around in terms of they have the vision, they carry it as well as much as I do. And these are people that are committed, to what we are building. So you can't be the smartest person in the room. Never assume that, because you've given this idea, that has to be the best idea. It can come from even the intern or from, the core member that is just helping. And that has really helped. So today when I see emails flying around, people doing stuff. I'm just really excited that it's not just Bimbo and I doing this now, and we can't wait. What I'm actually quite scared about is when I can't remember the first name of everybody anymore. So I spoke to one of my mentors. That's a good problem. Yeah, I spoke to one of my mentors, and they are just, their team members are just crossing between 300, 500. And she was telling me that the growth, the scary part is from 50 to 100, that because that's when the 61st person, you can't remember their first name anymore, you're confusing it. So we're enjoying the time that we're still small now, because within the coming year, it seems like we're going to be there. We have a lot of open roles right now, and it seems like we're going to double in size and, just tackle this mission, more aggressively. So that's the time I'm like, oh my God, like it's going to be interesting to to now begin to say, oh, the guy in Kenya, the guy in charge of this, like I really hope I can do my best before that time comes.
We hope the same with you. So before we go, for anyone who's watching right now, who's thinking, okay, I want to migrate, I want to jackpot, whatever the word is, and I want to download Vesti, what do you hope they get from deciding to go the Vesti way?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, what we're doing is that we're simplifying, the whole process of migration.
You don't give the visas.
We're not the country. We're not the consular.
Because I think people have that thing where it's like, we like getting visa.
We're not the consular. So we're simplifying the entire process, because I have seen people, I designed a program when we were starting Vesti called Move in 12 months.
Right.
And in fact, when I say that to myself now, I'm like, isn't that too long? But Move in 12 months, when we created it, was really surprising to a lot of people, that really, because some of them have been trying to migrate for 5 years. So creating a program that can actually guarantee that they will move in 12 months. And what did I design? We just showed them that if you have multiple approaches, Canada, UK, you choose your top 3 countries.
Right.
And we still have that in the app today. When you join the app, you have to choose your top 3 countries that you want to move to. And that would basically determine what you begin to see within the app. So essentially, if you choose top 3 countries and work on them, you've created layers of sort of like resilience for yourself, And what that would do for you is to make sure that you would definitely land in one of those countries that you desire. So if it's education that you're going for, and it doesn't matter whether it's Canada or the UK, then that's fine. If it's a family migration and you're not bent on just one country, you can create other multiple plans for yourself. So one of the things people get is the fact that it simplifies it. There's a gamified approach called Pathways in the app. It has the plain sign like this just to show that you're going. And you can basically select from any of the pathways that are available.
Right.
And you will see the step-by-step approach to move. Also, we have an in-app chat feature where you can actually chat with like specialists, on specific migration pathways. We also have a specific product called Education Pathway, which is clearly like the UK now are hoping to welcome as many immigrants as possible. So, we have that Education Pathway is a specific product that helps you to find low barrier schools that are great. We say low barrier because people are stuck on, my school is looking for GRE, my school is looking for TOEFL or IELTS.
Yeah.
Can I find a school that won't ask for any of these tests, and that will still enable me? So we have a compilation of all those schools, and we even have support with filling your forms. Because, before when I started, I used to come with this God complex superiority of like, my wife would tell me, what you think is easy for you is not easy for every other person. But I think I'm better this year for it, because we started now designing things that help people. Before I would say, can't you just Google it? Can't you just search for it? Can't you just fill this form? But we are not, or our strengths are different.
Sure.
Some of us are good with documentation and forms and this and that. Others are not. So we created a pathway called Education Pathway that you'll get a concierge from our team, to basically help you at like 1/5 of the price that even inexperienced agents will charge. So that has helped a lot of people. So yeah, the app is there for you. You can even create a bank account, create a card before you leave Nigeria if you're on the way to moving. So all of those things are just there, and every day we're trying to improve the user experience as we go.
Will this be free forever? Or do you hope to put a paywall at some point?
As a matter of fact, it's not even 100% free right now. Right. So most of the using of the pathways, learning is still free. We'll probably make it a subscription-based feature later.
Okay.
So please use it while it's free now. But when you're making payments for like, let's say you're paying for, you're making a fee, like there's some very tiny transaction fees that we charge as a business, as well. If you are funding your card or you are spending your card as well, there are a couple of transaction fees here and there. But we bring that convenience and ease to you, so that you don't have to be calling, Daddy London or Mommy London to help you make that payment when you can actually do it yourself. I've heard of people who wanted to pay for their service fee and they had to call somebody. The person will say, next month when I'm going to Walmart, that's when I can go and pay it. I go to Walmart only once a month. I can't go now, you know, all those kind of things. Or they make a mistake in their name spellings and it costs that person their admission cycle entirely.
Yeah.
So all that, you can now do that by yourself and you can get help directly on our app with folks who are always there to assist you.
Lovely. That's all we can take today. It's been so insightful. I've learned so much, and I hope that you have as well. And in the event that you are perhaps looking at the possibility of migrating, or you know, just being a nomad as you have been created to be, to see the world, to experience it, and to just have some adventure in some part of the world, we think that this is a very good place to start. Vesti is available for downloads on your Google Play Store and your App Store as well. Thank you so much, Shola.
My pleasure.
Coming on the podcast. This has been really exciting. Have any shout outs to give?
Shout out. It's okay. So my wife will not kill me. No. I'm just kidding. Yeah, shout out to my wife. Like, amazing. She's very supportive. She understands like where we are going. Sometimes I can be, but she knows that she knows where we are going because we have two wonderful girls who are like 10 boys. So just managing all of that. So shout out to all my team members listening as well. Vesti guys, I love you guys. Shout out to all of you guys.
How would that be? Vesti. See you guys next time on the TechCity Podcast. I'm Belarus Okoje Duruji. Thanks for watching.